Why governance professionals can make good non-executive directors. Welcome to the Better Boards podcast series, the podcast for chairs, CEOs, non-executive directors, company secretaries, and their advisors. Every episode is filled with practical insights and learnings from those inside boardrooms. We discuss what really matters and highlight actionable steps you can take to enhance the performance of your board. In this podcast, we explore why governance professionals should be considered for a non-executive director role, particularly in certain segments. The role of governance professionals, and in particular that of company secretaries, bring a unique and often under-recognized skill set to the boardroom. One that blends governance insights with strategic and commercial acumen. It's a role that sits at the crossroad of compliance, risk, leadership, culture, and offers real value in today's complex corporate environment. I'm delighted to speak with Lyn Colloff. She's a fellow of the Chartered Governance Institute with over 40 years of experience in governance, risk, and compliance across listed and regulated sectors. Most recently, she served as a company secretary in a FTSE 250 organization, and she is now setting up her own consultancy, offering trainings and consultancy services in the governance space. Lyn, thank you so much for contributing to the Better Boards podcast series.
Great to be here.
Lyn, we will discuss, and we discussed, of course, in preparation, an interesting topic. What makes you think that company secretaries and governance professionals would make really good non-executive directors?
Well, I think it's about the experience that those individuals may well have picked up through their career. So, lots of company secretaries, governance professionals bring a blend of governance, strategic and contemporary risk awareness expertise, alongside an in-depth understanding of the boardroom dynamics. So, their day-to-day job is very much around a deep understanding of governance codes and frameworks, such as the UK Governance Code and listing rules. And that gives them an ability to translate complex regulations into practical board-level advice. These individuals as well are very used to exercising independent judgment, which is an important concept for a non-executive director. So they're very much linked into the strategic planning process. Specifically, they've got great experience of horizon planning and risk opportunity identification. Not to forget the ability to help shape the culture of the organisation.
So when you talk all about this, it sounds, of course, fantastic on paper. Mm-hmm. But what do you think are the reasons why they have been overlooked to date? And we might need to differentiate a bit at the listed organization level versus the charity level or the education level. Governance professionals might be more active.
Absolutely.
But what do you think? By the sounds of it, everyone would think, yeah, that sounds interesting. That's what we need on the boardroom. But clearly, when I look at all our FTSE clients, I haven't seen a company secretary having a real seat at the table. Yes, they are in the boardroom, and they're respected as company secretaries, but I haven't seen them really active and being recruited as a non-executive director.
Yeah, and I think probably less relevant in the FTSE arena. I think, COSECs can make very good non-executive directors for either the smaller FTSE companies, or maybe a company that's looking or preparing to list, or a smaller, say, for example, AIM organisation, where they may not have, a very experienced COSEC in the boardroom already, as advisor to the board. They may be doubling up on that role. They may have a CFO already doing that or legal person doing that role, rather than a dedicated company secretary. And there's different skill sets there. Also, there's a lot of, the CFO and the CEO really, generally do dominate the non-executive director space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, there's a case to put really about making sure you've got all of the skill sets you need in the boardroom, including that big governance piece. Also, things like, or organisations like charities, sports organisations are very much being given a stronger governance steering regulation now. They may just need that little bit more sort of experience in the boardroom that helps them get into the right governance space. So this may just be a one-term appointment, or it may be a longer term, if it's a much more regulated space that the organisation is in. They may just want that governance skill set. When we talk about governance, it's not just, the board and managing the board that a company secretary does. They generally oversee the risk management side of the organisation. So, strong link into strategy and understanding strategy. And then from there, obviously, budgets and the financial side of the organisation as well. Company secretaries have got a strong understanding of things like key performance indicators, how those should be used by the board to spot trends coming down the road to face the organisation.
Let me challenge you a little bit on all of that, Lyn. What we are seeing in the UK and also on the continent in Europe, I've seen it, there's almost an oversupply. There is an oversupply of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very keen to get a seat on the table. There are lots of courses, training organizations sprung up that want to prepare people and enhance their chances of getting a seat on the table.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, and I discussed actually our topic with a headhunter before this recording. And he said, well, I can have them. There is this oversupply. Yeah, it's now as people want to work longer, they want to give something back. It's ideal for people who step out of the working 100% mode. Why should a headhunter, why should an organization really, if they could have an ex-CEO or an ex-CFO, why should they then still go and take a punt at the company secretary?
I totally get that, yeah. I think there, again, I come back to the response I gave earlier in terms of making sure that in the boardroom, you need the full skill set. It is one unit. And, the role of the chair really is to make sure that everybody that's got a seat at the table brings with them a different level of expertise and be able to contribute in different ways. If you fill the boardroom full of CEOs or ex-CEOs and CFOs, you're not getting that diversity of thought. But you need people that have got different backgrounds really to bring that or to make the board really function in a very, very excellent way, effectively. Stakeholders there want to make sure that they've got the board really working in unison.
Yeah.
And that means, making sure the skill set in that boardroom is, balanced and all round.
Let me tell you something else I picked up from this conversation with a headhunter. He said, look, most organizations really look also for this P&L experience, were they really responsible for the profit and loss? And a company secretary in most likelihood never was. What would you say to this? Let's get rid of.
Yeah, and I think if you've been in an organisation as a company secretary with executive responsibilities, you'll very much be understanding how to put your budgets together. How you are as held accountable for what you spend within the organisation. That's no different to P&L. And it just means that you're looking across the whole organisation rather than in your specific team. Also, the company secretary in most organisations is in the remuneration committee. And indeed, the remuneration committee is needs those people that sit on that committee really need to understand the finances of the organisation as well to set bonuses and targets appropriately. Indeed, the company secretary may well be advising the chair of the RemCo around things that they may not be thinking about, because the company secretary is in the business on a day-to-day basis. They see much more of what's happening in the business and maybe can advise the committee chairs as to where, they should be looking for things like, what's a soft target, what's a hard target. So they bring with them that sort of knowledge. So I don't really accept that COSECs have got no financial experience. But again, coming back to, the balance in the boardroom, they've got enough experience to be able to identify where things are going wrong, where things are pointing to, a potential financial issue coming to face the organisation. And also, if there are other CFOs in the boardroom, ex-CFOs in the boardroom, they're also bringing that expertise. So again, it's back to that balance in the boardroom.
We talked a little bit about this already, but another point he basically said is, why would you want to have two company secretaries in the room? And you already answered this slightly by saying, look, maybe a good entry point for company secretaries is really the space where there isn't this super professional full-time company secretary.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see much of a call for a company secretary as a non-executive director in the large FTSE organisations. I don't see that because I think they've got the expertise in the boardroom anyway. You've got some really strong company secretaries as advisors to the board there. So I see it more in the smaller organisations, as I say, the AIM-listed organisations, or even, private equity, again, where they're looking to bring it back into a listed environment. Also, those smaller companies that just can't really afford to have a fully dedicated company secretary.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Let's unpick three specific areas. The strategic expertise, which is now so important as everything around us is shaking like hell.
Yes.
What strategic expertise can a company secretary bring to the table? Or what do you think makes them different from the typical candidates in the boardroom, the CEOs, the CFOs, the accountants?
Yeah, I think there's, most company secretaries have got a strong track record of contributing to strategic planning, to transformation and stakeholder alignment as well. So in terms of their risk capacity, they'd be very tuned into the strategic planning process, understanding the sector and the political environment that the organisation is working within. And also, bringing that to bear in terms of trying to plan for the future. Also, a company secretary has got an independent mindset sort of built into their DNA. They've also got the courage to challenge constructively and probe for clarity because, again, that is within a COSEC DNA. Also, many people in the COSEC space really do understand how to safeguard shareholder and stakeholder interests, bringing a strong understanding of the stakeholder considerations that need to be taken into account when making decisions around the board table. So I think that's really important in terms of strategic direction. Also, they've got very strong understanding of conflicts of interest and managing, different sort of backgrounds and different mindsets and helping to maintain objectivity. So I think all of those really do contribute to, the strategic path that the organisation is on. And I think that is something that's, again, the CEO and CFO have definitely got that, but maybe from a different perspective.
And what do you think? What could they do in terms of contributing to positive and constructive dynamics in the boardroom?
Well, I think it's understanding the way that decisions are made, who may well need a little bit more priming in terms of understanding the topics. So, sort of helping the chair to manage, the decisions in the boardroom and the conversations in the boardroom. Again, a lot of company secretaries work in the background. I think there is a case to be made for the company secretary to sit at the table with a voice as a director and actually be able to, put forward the pros and cons of particular, proposals that are put before the board because of that deep understanding of the organisation, how it works, and, the people that are working within the organisation.
So what do you think? What needs to happen that more company secretaries are invited into the boardrooms of the segments we talked about? What need to happen?
Well, I think there's a need for people to sort of really understand, the experience a co-sec can bring to the board table, but also matching those opportunities that come up for non-executive directors, really probing what it is that the organisation is looking for. What do they need? Where are the gaps in that skill set around the board table that need to be filled? So it's really teasing out exactly, what's missing in the boardroom, how a company secretary or governance professional could fill that gap, and really looking at where the organisation is going and what skill set it needs for the future.
So that was a real boost for company secretaries and governance professionals. I mean, of course, I love the profession. I support the profession for whatever we can. And I hope that our discussion was a little bit thought-provoking for some nomination committees and also some headhunters to maybe widen the net a little bit for the segments that we discussed in this podcast. Sadly, we have to come to an end, Lyn. And there's always this same question. What are the 3 things our listeners should take away from this podcast?
Well, really, it's be open-minded about the background and skill sets that can be brought into the boardroom by the governance professional or company secretary. Consider the skill set of all board members and complement what's missing with good all-rounders, which I think really, a company secretary can fill a lot of gaps. And look at the risk horizon and really understand what's likely to impact the organisation's strategy in the coming years, and make sure the board is equipped to meet those challenges. I think those are the 3 things that I'd call out, Sabine.
Fantastic, Lyn. Lyn, thank you so much for contributing to the Better Boards podcast
series.
I know, and maybe some people want to pick it up and continue the conversation on LinkedIn or other media.
Absolutely. Yeah, always there for a good debate.
Thanks so much, Lyn.
Thank you, Sabine.
We at Better Boards are continuously developing our community. So if you are interested in becoming part of our community, if you are working in the sector of governance, or if you are an executive search business, a consultancy business, and are interested in what you can do to serve boards maybe better, reach out, become part of our community. We are always interested to hear from you. If you have an idea for a podcast topic, also reach out. We love to hear from you. Thank you for listening.